Hi everyone, Pam Gregory. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the first half of June and in particular the new moon that we have coming up in Gemini on the 4th and the 5th of June, depending on where in the world you live. Now, right at the beginning of June, we have the continuation of the grand trine in Earth, this equilateral triangle that we had running all through May, and we still have it for the first 4 days of June, and it's between Jupiter at 14 degrees of Virgo, Pluto at 17 degrees of Capricorn, and Mercury, which is moving from 17 to 20 degrees of Taurus. And then that equilateral triangle begins to break up as Mercury moves on. So, particularly if you have anything between 13 to 17 degrees of the Earth signs, and those are Taurus, Virgo and Capricorn, you may have already benefited from this Earth Grand Trine through May. It can bring in sometimes money, financial abundance. It can bring in personal growth opportunities, success, recognition, a feeling of expansion. It's very, very positive. So, particularly because Mercury is involved in this, we're going to be talking a lot about thinking in this video. Think abundantly, think successfully, think big, think with wider horizons, particularly whilst we've got that grand trine in Earth running. It's going to be very useful for us as well because it's in Earth to ground us at the beginning of June, because I've talked a lot this year how 2016 is a year of mutability, where we have many planets in mutable signs, and those are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius and Pisces. And in fact, through the first half of June, well, particularly at the new moon that I'm going to be talking about, we have 7 planets, including, if you include Chiron, in mutable signs, and also we have the north node of the moon in Virgo. So what mutability means is it's a lot about dexterity, flexibility, having to be fast on our feet, able to turn on a dime. But it's about fast-moving change and flux. We also, in June, have Uranus, which is in a tight conjunction with the dwarf planet Eris. The symbolism of Eris is like a souped-up version of Uranus, and they are both tightly together in Aries, and we haven't had that conjunction. We also had it in May, but before that we hadn't had that conjunction since 1927. And those planets are concerned also with fast-moving change. You always get a feeling of things being speeded up with Uranus. It can bring in personal awakenings, it can bring in shifts of consciousness, but it has the feeling of very fast change and things coming out of the blue, which could be great opportunities, but at times they could be disruptive as well. So through June, we're going to be feeling this, and particularly we're going to be feeling it at the new moon. Now, the new moon happens on the 4th of June. It happens at 7:59 p.m. Pacific time, and on the next day, the 5th, at 3:59 a.m. UK time. It's going to be at 14 degrees 53 minutes of Gemini, so almost 15 degrees of Gemini. And the reason it's so powerful is it's going to form the 4th corner of what's called a mutable grand cross. Now, I've been talking this year about the T-square between Jupiter and the North Node in Virgo, square to Saturn in Sagittarius, which is square to Neptune in Pisces. But now, at this final 4th corner, we're going to have the Sun and the Moon, which are always together at a new moon, and Venus as well, tightly together with that Sun and Moon. So it's forming a square. And when you have a mutable grand cross like this, you feel very much on a surface level pulled in different directions. Jupiter square Saturn is about the swing between optimism and pessimism. It's about the swing between work, that's Saturn, and play, that's Jupiter. Wanting to be free and adventurous and take a risk, Saturn pulls us back to be cautious. We've talked a lot this year already about the square between Saturn and Neptune, about what's real and what's not, what's enduring and what's shifting, what can you trust and what not. So, and in addition to all of that, we also have Mars opposite Mercury at this new moon. So that will energize, it will make our thinking quite buzzy. So as I say, on a surface level, there's a lot of busyness, where you feel pulled in different directions to do different things. Because we have very little in fixed signs, we may feel that we're being almost overwhelmed by events and people asking us for favours, and that, there's an awful lot going on. And the reason I'm emphasising that is because it's going to be super important for us to find a point of stillness in our lives, to find a practice that will give us that centre of stillness. Now, whether you do that through your meditation, whether you do that by earthing, by sitting with your feet on the grass and in contact with the earth, whether you do that by creativity, listening to music, whether you use a mindfulness practice of when you're in a very tense situation, if you just take a breath, step back and almost observe yourself, observe the events unfolding as if you're observing a play, and think, what would my higher self do in this situation? So find that point of stillness. It's going to be very helpful for us to get us through all these times of mutability. As I say, June is one of the peak months of mutability in the year. I think what's super important to say as well is the message very strongly is to go with the flow of life, to release control. Particularly if you have someone who has a lot of fixed signs in their chart and needs to grip life quite tightly, has a need for control, this is a time to just relax that control. Because that's what we're being called to do. Because in a way, particularly with our thinking, and I'm going to be coming on to this in a moment, we can't fully embrace the future if we're still hanging on to the past, particularly our past ways of thinking. So feel free, feel even just as an experiment temporarily that you can let yourself go with the flow. Yes, have a point of stillness. Yes, be aware of your values and your priorities in life to guide you, to form a keel, if you like, but very much try and release and relinquish control at this time. Because the new moon is in Gemini, this is all about the mental faculty. It's all about our thinking. And I think we're becoming aware of how powerful our thoughts are. We used to think they were just fleeting, ephemeral things, but we're becoming very, very aware of the power they have to create our reality. It's very interesting to know that 90% of the thoughts we have each day are the same as the thoughts we had yesterday, which are the same as the thoughts we had the day before and the day before. So we are so often in a rut of the same kind of thinking. And if that thinking is negative or derogatory, it's negative self-talk, it's unhelpful, then that isn't going to help us embrace new thinking and move forwards in our lives. So we have to be at this time, because this is a new opportunity, a new beginning, new moon, connected with our thinking, to be very acutely aware of our thinking patterns and to catch any kind of negativity. Be a thought policeman. Be mindful of your thinking. It's very interesting also that our thoughts are electrical impulses, our emotions are magnetic waves, and together they form a set point of vibration. So everything begins with our thinking, because that leads the whole sequence of events through our emotion and our level of consciousness ultimately. There's some big opportunities this month to really shift our consciousness, because at this new moon, Jupiter is square to the Sun, the Moon, and Venus. They're in a tight threesome, if you like. Now, the Sun, the Moon, and Venus are in Gemini, so that's about our thinking, but also about our perception. So that square from Jupiter can expand our perception. Not only that, but Neptune, which is in Pisces, the sign it rules, it's a very happy place for Neptune, is gradually slowing to become stationary in the heavens on the 13th of June. And whenever a planet is stationary, its symbolism is highlighted. And the symbolism of Neptune is about healing and miracles and unconditional love and consciousness. Now, Neptune will stay very close to that stationary point, within a degree of that stationary point, until the middle of August. So in a sense, that the issue of consciousness and healing and miracles All of those things are being highlighted. And what's wonderful at this new moon mutable grand cross is that Jupiter is in an opposition to Neptune. So it's expanding our consciousness, potentially. Not just expanding our perception, but expanding our consciousness. So some real opportunities for shifts in our vibration and our consciousness at this new moon. Neptune being opposed by Jupiter is quite mystical. It's a great urge to be of spiritual service to the world. It wants to move to a higher reality, a more perfect reality. There's a feeling of purifying the body, to wanting to purify the system in order to aid the vibration and the consciousness shifts too. And this feeling of contributing to the whole, wanting to be of selfless service is very strong this year with Jupiter and the North Node in Virgo, but it's a theme that I think is going to build very much as we get towards 2020, and we're thinking much more collectively by then. The other wonderful thing about this new moon in Gemini is because Venus is tightly conjunct the Sun and the Moon, and indeed for the first half of June, Venus moves with the Sun. This is about developing loving thoughts. Venus in Gemini, loving thoughts, loving thinking. So part of the message of this new moon, this powerful mutable grand cross, is about shifting from gripping the past, gripping our old thinking habits too tightly, and opening up to a new consciousness, to a new vibration. But doing it with love and being aware of trying to shift from the mind to the heart in our everyday life. Gemini is very much about our day-to-day life. So living in a heart-centered way and being very aware of living from the heart as we move through our day-to-day life. And there's been some wonderful work conducted on the heart and how the heart sends more information to the brain than the brain does to the heart. So this is our opportunity to really start living in that very full, loving way day to day. So I hope you have a wonderful new moon. Remember to set a new intention for your new thinking patterns at this new moon. Also, very importantly, see where this falls in your chart, where 1453 of Gemini falls in your chart, because that will also signify a new beginning in that area of life for you. And if you don't understand what I've just said, if you don't know where that falls in your chart, check out the link appearing above me or below in the description, and that will take you to my store, and you can buy a 2-part video series that people are really getting so much from, because it's helping them understand what these updates mean, all these aspects I've talked about today mean in their lives for them this month. So that's very exciting. And if you'd like more information about my book, my audiobook, my free monthly newsletter of about 4,000 words, my other tutorial videos too, just check out my website, pamgregory.com, or thenextstep.uk.com. And have a great new moon in Gemini, and thanks so much for listening.